Hello and welcome to the home of the Ghost Owl. Continuing our Lizardmen faction focus, we covered the special units part 1 last time, and we're now into the part 2 to look at the other special category units in the roster in the 8th edition army book, see how they played back then to see how they might play in Warhammer The Old World. So let's have a look at what we've got. So first up are the Kroxigor. So we talked a bit about these when we looked at the skink cohorts. The skinks can take 1 Kroxigor for every 8 models in as part of that skink unit, but they could also be a unit on their own, which is in the special category here. So you can see the original old Kroxigors in the center there, but they have been reimagined for the Seraphon and Age of Sigmar, so still easily available to get hold of the Kroxigors. As I said, if you're looking to get into Lizardmen in the Old World, fairly easy to get hold of them, of the miniatures, because they're available in various forms in the Age of Sigmar Seraphon list. And I actually really quite like the reimagining of these Kroxigors. I think they look pretty cool. Right, stats wise though, they're above average movement, they've got good strength and attacks, low weapon skill though, initiative, and not great leadership. Equipment wise, they come with a great weapon, so they're getting that +2 strength, but they are going to always strike last. Minimum unit size is 3, and they can only have a champion. They get the basic Lizardmen special rules. The scaly skin is 4+, which is quite nice, but there's no shield or light armor to boost that. They got the predatory fighter rule, of course. They get fear, and they get aquatic. So again, aquatic situational. These guys are 50 points a model. Their weapon skill 3, toughness 4, 3 wounds. With the 4+ armor save, you could take a Stegodon and a Bastillodon for the same, virtually the same cost as a unit of 6 of these, which I personally preferred the monsters overtaking these guys. Look, they're not the worst unit. I think it's a common theme for the Lizardmen book. Most of the units, they're not terrible. It's just there's better options. And again, depending on what flavour you want. If you were going for a full skink themed list, then you would want to take the Kroxigor. But to be honest, a unit of 6 Kroxigor or a Stegodon and a Bastillodon, I'm going to go for the monsters every time. So better choices for my personal list composition of infantry, blocks, monsters and flyers. Yeah, simple as that. Okay, next up. We're into the flyers now. We've got the Pterodon Riders. These Pterodon Riders are still available in Age of Sigmar, as you can see there. And you can see these guys rocking with both the javelins and the fire leech bowlers. So let's see what we've got stats wise. Now, overall, their stats across the board, they're not that good, right? They're pretty low stats. These are basic skinks flying on top of these things. But they've got, average ballistic skill. They've got the good movement due to fly. Equipment wise, they come with a hand weapon and a Lustrian javelin, and they can change the javelin for fire leech bowlers, which are 6-inch range, strength 4, flaming attacks, and quick to fire. Minimum unit size is 3, and they can only take a champion. Now they also have the cold-blooded. They got scaly skin, 6+, so not great durability. They do have fear. They are flying cavalry, and they do get forest strider. But their main rule here is drop rocks. They may drop rocks once per game, and you choose an enemy unit that you flew over, and that unit takes D3 strength 4 hits per Pterodon. Now, I always took at least 1 unit of 6. These guys are 35 points a model. They're good value. Combined with the high movement and the rock bomb, that would be 6 D3 strength 4 hits. That's a concern for many infantry units, right? You only have to, think about that. If you're rolling average, right, D3, so you're rolling average 2, right, that's 12 strength 4 hits, right, on pretty much any unit you pick on the board because of the high movement. That's pretty nasty for most infantry units. Coupled with the following up threat of the harassing fire, they've got good move. You've got these fire leech bowlers, which I normally took. Or the war machines that would threaten the archers as well, and you've even got the option to sacrifice, charge them in as a movement block. But at toughness 2, 2 wounds, 6+ save, they are vulnerable to shooting, and spells, so you do need to play them carefully. You can't just turn one, run them across the board for a bombing run. You need to be a bit more smart about how you do that. But I really like these guys. I think they have great value, good flexibility, and not crazy expensive for what you could do with them. Next up, the Venerable Stegodon, the original monster unit for the Lizardmen. So, stats-wise, above average movement, strength, toughness and wounds. It's a big, tough beast, but it does have low weapon skill, initiative and leadership. Equipment-wise, it comes with hand weapons, Lustrian javelins, and a giant bow, which is essentially a bolt thrower with a 36-inch range, strength 5, poisoned, multiple wounds D3 and no armor saves, and a 6 to hit automatically wounds the first model when penetrating the ranks. So pretty nice war machine there. And may be upgraded with Unstoppable Stampede, which gains devastating charge and sharpened horns. Impact hits gain multiple wounds D3. The unit size, essentially it's 1 Stegodon and 5 skink crew. And you can see here you get cold-blooded, scaly skin is 4+, so it's a 4+ save monster. Howdah crew, which is basically having the skinks up there that can do their own things. You've got immune to psychology, which is nice. Impact hits D6 +1, so it's going to hurt when it charges. And you can imagine those impact hits at D6 +1 with sharpened horns gaining multiple wounds D3 on those impact hits. That's pretty nasty if that thing charges you. Large target, so it's not gaining cover. Stubborn, but it also causes terror. That is a decent monster combined with the war machine in the form of the giant bow. Overall, however, I preferred to take the ancient Stegodon in the rare category and save my points in the special category for things like Temple Guard, Flyers and Bastiladons. So, you think, how much a big block of Temple Guard is, those 6 Pterodons we talked about just a minute ago, Bastiladon on top of that. You go through your points pretty quickly. So personally, I would have my the Stegodon I would choose would be the ancient version in the rare category, but still this a good choice, and the sharpened horns being my personal choice of upgrade. But talking about the Bastiladon, next up we have the Bastiladon. So stats wise, average toughness and wounds, low everything else. Equipment is a hand weapon, Lustrian javelins, and the Ark of Sotek, which is what you see in the middle. So this one here is the Ark of Sotek, and essentially it's this like stone thing with all these tunnels on top, and you can see a whole ton of snakes coming out of that. You've got the solar engine here on the right hand side. So the Ark of Sotek, what does it do? You nominate one jungle swarm unit within 6 inches. So that's what we said earlier in the special part 1. That if you're taking one of these, you need to take jungle swarms, because you basically on a 4+, you can add 1 base to that jungle swarm, and you can take it beyond its starting size. So if you keep the jungle swarm close to this thing, you can really, keep adding bases as long as you roll reasonably well. Bit swingy though. D6 inches range though, strength 2 when marching, charging, or in close combat. All enemy units take 2d6 hits. Right, so you need to get this thing, in combat, and while it's in combat, it's going to be doing 2d6 strength 2 hits every turn, which is nice. That's a lot of hits. Strength 2, not a lot, but adding 2d6 to what it's already doing. But you can replace that arc with the solar engine, which is what I always had, at least one Bastiladon with the solar engine. All friendly units gain within 6 inches gain +1 initiative. That can be really key, because that's going to change your when you're attacking. And it gains the bound spell, which is the Beam of Kotek. Now this is a power level 3, 24-inch magic missile that does flaming attacks, and then you roll on the table to determine strength and hits. So you roll a d6, on a 1 you do d3 strength 3 hits. On a 2 to 3, you do d6 strength 4 hits. Now that's the lower end. Now it's swingy, 50%. If you roll a 4 or 5, you're doing 2d6 strength 5 hits. And if you're lucky enough to roll a 6, you're going to do 2d6 strength 6 hits and -1 to an enemy's weapon skill, ballistic skill. I really like the solar engine, I really like the bound spell that it gives, and I really like the fact you get the +1 initiative as well. So that would be my choice without a doubt. Unit size, you get 1 Bastillodon and 4 crew. You get the cold-blooded, you get scaly skin, Howder crew, large target, terror. Does have the always strikes last, the Bastillodon, but it does have impervious defense. So, you know, it's got a 2+ armor save base, which it should do if you look at the thing, but it has no ranks or rear either. So if it gets charged in the rear or the side, it's going to have no impact. And Thunderous Bludgeon, which is every time you attack, you nominate 1 attack as the Thunderous Bludgeon. That is a strength 10 attack, and you get +1 to hit models in the rear arc. So that's quite nice. As you can see here on the round base, still available in the Seraphon Age of Sigmar, so easy to get hold of and put this in your Old World Lizardmen army. So it's a surprisingly tough monster. When you look at his stats, you kind of go, it's not that tough a monster, but it's got a 2+ armor save, and it's only around 150 points. You know, I always took at least 1 with the solar engine, love it, which has 50% chance of doing some serious damage. And even if you're not doing that, you know, 2 to 3 is still doing D6 strength 4 hits, at 24 inches, which is quite nice. You know, if points are available due to only taking 1 unit of flyers, you could take a second Bastillodon with the Arc of Sotek. But as I said, you really need to add the Jungle Swarm to that to be worth it. So there you go, Bastillodon, really cool monster, and one that I always took in my army list. So finally then, we've got the Ripperdactyl Riders. Overall, low stats across the board with average ballistic skill and attacks, high movement due to fly. Equipment is spear and shield, unit size is 3+, and they may take a champion only. So this is a dual kit with the Pterodons, making the different unit. They are flying cavalry, they do cause fear, they're not durable like the Pterodon Riders, only scaly skin 6, but the Ripperdactyl itself does gain armor piercing, frenzy, and killing blow. There's also this amusingly named a rule called Toad Rage. At the beginning of battle, 1 enemy unit gets a block toad marker. Ripperdactyl Frenzy gets D3+1 extra attacks instead of 1, and re-rolls all failed hit rolls. This is a decent flying unit that can really wreck the rear lines of an army, taking on archers, wizards and war machines with ease, only let down by the low weapon skill. You know, they're slightly more expensive at 40 points a model, but like the Pterodons, you know, they're vulnerable to shooting and spells. To be honest, overall, if I have to choose just 1 unit, then I prefer the Pterodons, but most of the time I would be trying to fit a unit of Pterodons, a unit of Ripperdactyls, with the Temple Guard, and then the Bastillodon with the solar engine. That's kind of be my go-to special unit choices. It depends on the points and what you're trying to go for, but I actually really liked these Ripperdactyls to get into the rear lines. Like I say, you could really, particularly if you're facing an army that has quite a lot of missile units, war machines, that sort of thing, these things would make short work of those. So overall, a pretty decent unit. And like I say, that block toad mark, if there's something you really want to get rid of, you know, that could be really nice as well. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of the Lizardmen special units. A few more special units than what we've seen previously, so that really helps to round out the book. Hopefully it's been of interest if you've never played Lizardmen before, but you can also see the crossover here with the Lizardmen and Seraphon. So if you are new into Lizardmen for the Old World, getting hold of models, despite these guys not being a core faction, is not going to be hard at all. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Let me know why in the comments down below. And as always, if you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. It's so important for me, so I really appreciate that, and thank you in advance. You've been watching The Ghost Hour. Tune back in as we move to those Lizardmen Rare units.